VP at the Greater Cleveland Partnership. This is our opportunity to tell the cool stories of entrepreneurs from the moment they had their entrepreneurial seizure, the challenges, the exciting points, the opportunities they pursued, and how they've grown. And certainly right now, also talking about how COVID has impacted our small businesses, because we know it has been certainly a challenging year. I am joined again by my co-host, Kevin Johnson, Managing Partner of NextGen Interactive and COSE Board Chair. I'm going to throw it to you, Kevin, to introduce our next guest.
Megan, thank you. Good to see you. And I'm so happy to be on yet another edition of our podcast. Today we have Alex Gertsburg. And Alex is, everyone that we talk to is not always a COSE member. Alex actually is. And so we're very happy to talk to Alex and have him with us today and talk a little bit about his entrepreneurial journey and all of the things that he's doing. So without any further ado, Alex, welcome, and we're glad to have you with us.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Megan, for having me. I love all things COSE, all things GCP, as you know, so I'm honored that you would ask me to participate, and thank you. Yeah, looking forward to it.
I think we invited you too, because every time I talk to you, I learn something new about you. You're quite an interesting character, so we're excited to have you on here today. To learn about your business, but also I was reading up on your website, there's a military background and things like that as well. So we'd love to hear about that too.
Why don't you start with your company and how you got started?
Thanks. Yeah. So the main company is the Gertsburg Law Firm. I've been practicing law for 20 years, and my professional career can roughly be divided into 3 buckets. The first third was with a couple of large law firms doing business litigation. The second third was when I went in-house to become a general counsel for a big telecom company in Cleveland called Broadbox. And then the third started 8 years ago when I launched this law firm. And at that time, we had 1 lawyer and 1 secretary and 1 client. And the hope was that we would be able to grow the firm into a full-service business law firm, and I think we've done that. Today we have about 14 people here. We have about 1,200 clients. We serve them through all manner of business legal needs, from litigation to mergers and acquisitions to real estate, employment. We try to be a one-stop shop for our clients. And then within the last year, we partly because of the pandemic, largely I'd say because of the pandemic, what we realized was that our clients had needs that we could fill for them that had very little to do with the practice of law. In March of last year, a year ago, we were fielding a lot of panicked calls from clients who were laying people off, or who were looking for PPP money and needed help just navigating these bureaucratic minefields, calls that you guys field too, right, at COSE. And so we launched within the last year an M&A advisory firm where we help clients buy and sell other businesses, grow through acquisitions. So that's called Gertsburg Acquisition Partners. And then we also have been doing a lot of executive recruiting, because what ends up happening over the last year is a lot of companies are laying people off. And what that does is it liberates a lot of great talent out there into the workforce. And when you've got 1,200 business clients at any given point, some number of them need a new, VP of HR or CMO or some other executive. And so we've been able to find talent and find companies for our clients to grow with through our help.
Wow, that's quite a story, and it also talks about one of the things that we've been discussing on this series, which is how companies adapted to the COVID-19 environment. What have they done? In your case, it looks like you've been able to again find that glass half full and figure out a way to add value to what you were already doing.
Yeah, Kevin, I really believe that entrepreneurs, small businesses in particular, um, a lot of us are wired for risk and are wired for opportunity hunting, finding it, discovering it, exploiting it. It's why we could have stayed with companies and a steady paycheck and decided for many of us that we can trust our instincts and our talents and our skill sets to find opportunities out there, right? So we trade in that steady paycheck for that risk, that unlimited upside.
That's right.
And I really feel like we've done a fairly good job here at the firm doing that, but not just doing that for ourselves, but helping our clients do that, you know? So COVID was this horrible thing for people from a public health standpoint and from a business standpoint, small businesses especially. But yeah, if you are a glass is half full kind of person and you step back and you try to get unemotional about it, the opportunity's out there. You just have to know where to look.
And you guys are located in Chagrin Falls, right?
We are today. I don't know when this podcast is going to air, but it is possible that by the time that it does, we will be in a new office building in Independence.
In Independence.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is a big change.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, it's funny because I live down the street in Chagrin Falls. And like I said, I started this firm and it was just me. And so we've been out here for 8 years, but as we've grown, all of the lawyers that work here are either West Siders or South Siders. Almost all of the staff is nowhere near Chagrin Falls. And so I'm really the only one who benefits from having an office close to home. So we're going westward.
All right. So we get to put this podcast out and be part of the announcement of the shift in your business.
An announcement is coming.
Okay. All right. All right.
Yeah.
Well, before I pass it back over to Megan, I want to ask you one other question. And that is, we've been having these discussions about small business and access to capital. You've just capsulized the growth from essentially a really small 1 or 2 person operation to what is now, approaching 16, 17 people. You're talking about relocating from where you are now in Chagrin Falls, probably out to Independence. Talk to me about how you've capitalized your business and how you've looked at business loans, business, how you looked at the whole access to capital model, if you would, that whole paradigm of how do I do this? Small businesses are famous for bootstrapping their growth, credit cards, all kinds of things. But then there's also the more formal processes with which we can go through. Talk about, if you can, how much of that you want to share with us about your journey.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I just had this debate with some clients and some professional colleagues of mine about whether it is good or not to use other people's money to grow, right? I'm a big fan of debt financing your growth, right? I have stomach for debt and for risk, and I have no problem going to my bank and saying, I want to buy this other law firm, or I need to finance this talent over here, this software, or whatever, because ultimately it's good for both of us, right? And convincing my bank to do that is, I actually think it's part of the journey, right? But then I've got really great, brilliant clients who have $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 in line of credit that they won't touch unless like the world is exploding. there's like debt to them. They were just raised to believe that neither a lender nor a borrower be, right? And nobody's right or wrong. It's just, where's your risk tolerance, and how much do you believe in your future, and how aggressively do you want to grow using other people's money, OPM, right? So everyone's different. Everyone's risk tolerances are different. I will tell you this. I'll tell you this, Kevin. The deals that we've put together for our clients, capital needs are rarely an obstacle. There is debt financing out there. There is private equity financing out there. There are investors out there. If you've got a good dream and you've got a good plan and you've got good people to execute your plan, there is money out there to finance your plan.
Yep.
You know, and it may be, like I said, I mean, it could be banks, it could be investors. There's a lot of cash out there waiting to be deployed to the right opportunity.
I love the way you put it in terms of the question you have to answer as a business owner is, what's your risk tolerance? And, you know, I've been a firm believer in never getting locked into one thing, because, you know, I've got to be able to float with what the opportunities du jour really are. But I've never been overly concerned. You know, I work too hard on brand and reputation and relationships. So, you know, when I'm going after money, why have these great relationships with all of these institutions if you can't leverage them to grow when it's time to do that? And so, but I definitely understand. And remember, the thing I always remember about your example is, you know, these companies that have these big lines of credit, well, guess what? It took a lot of work to get a line of credit that big, right?
That's right.
And so I understand that mindset, but there's an appreciation for what condition your business had to be or your personal finance had to be in order to get a line that big. Because I've seen and I've worked with that also, so I get it.
That's right. Kevin, in the late 1800s, John D. Rockefeller had an office on Euclid Avenue, and he was just a guy. Nobody had ever heard of him. And he decided he wanted to buy out all of his competitors, but he didn't have the cash to do it. He went to every bank in Cleveland, right, and said, I want to vertically integrate my oil refinery. And every bank gave him a little bit of money, and he became the richest man on the planet using money from banks in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yep.
Right? You can't be afraid of risk if you want to go really, really far.
And the other part of that story is, of course, he was generating great revenue, but then he was too in debt to them to fail. So
there's that too.
He created another pipeline. It's really good. Timing's everything. Okay, maybe go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to have you take us back to the beginning, because you guys have both talked about risk, and you talked about your 3 chapters, Alex. What made you finally make the move and say, I want to do this on my own? Was there something that happened? Was it progressively something you were always thinking about? I could do this better, or I want to kind of have my freedom. I'd love to hear your story there.
So this might be that nugget in this conversation of something that you didn't know about me. So I was not born in this country. Did you know that? Did I tell you that?
No.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I was born in a country called Moldova. Do you guys know where Moldova is?
Say it again.
Moldova. Nobody knows where Moldova is.
I don't know where it is.
No.
Yeah, nobody does. Nobody does. So here's Russia. Here's the Ukraine over here. Here's Romania. Here's the Black Sea. And there's this little sliver of land called Moldova, right? So that's where I was born. And we came over here in the 70s with nothing, right? And some charities gave us a little apartment on Coventry and Coventry and Euclid. And then we went into East Cleveland and lived at 14015 Superior Avenue in this apartment building that just had Russians in it. And we followed this path of my parents went to night school and worked these odd jobs and made a little bit of money, just enough to move from East Cleveland to South Euclid. And then they worked a couple more jobs and moved from South Euclid to Lyndhurst. And then eventually I moved to Sugar and Falls and my parents moved to Florida. But the journey was a very entrepreneurial one, because my dad, from pretty much from almost the beginning, realized that, if he just went to night school and then business school, he would just do better on his own than he could working for somebody else. And in Moldova, I mean, the saying in the former Soviet Union was, if you're following the rules and you're working for the government, you're not eating, So there's a definite entrepreneurial bloodstream that exists in my family. And I would venture to say that it was the same kind of DNA that brought them here in the first place. So I just kind of learned from my dad how to be a business owner. And I guess I just kind of knew that one day that I would try to emulate him. And then I paid for college with an Army ROTC scholarship. We had some money, but not enough really to pay for college. So I financed that with a scholarship and student loans, which I'm still paying off. Went to law school. The Army got theirs though, because then in the middle of my second legal job at one of the law firms, I went to Iraq in 2003, spent a year over there, which was a really great. I'll tell you what, I say this to anyone within the sound of my voice. If you ever have the opportunity to hire a veteran, all things being equal, the reason you always want to hire a vet, especially if it's a combat vet, if you have the chance, is because they were probably in their 20s or early 30s and given lives to be responsible for, given millions of dollars of assets to be responsible for. I didn't know what I was doing. And I am a convoy commander in Iraq doing these 5-day missions, and there's 160 human beings that I'm in charge of getting from point A to point B and back. And the weight and gravity of that responsibility informs how I lead my companies to this day, So that was a little detour. I came back and that just ties back into the story. I litigated business cases. I represented only companies. And then I learned how to be a telecom lawyer working for this telecom company. And I kind of had to do the mindset shift from just litigation, which was all combat and adversarialness and contentiousness, to making deals happen and putting jigsaw puzzles together to grow our company, And then, by 2012, having only represented entrepreneurs, and I just kind of wanted to, and having been around them, with just the immigrants that I knew and my dad, I just kind of wanted to be one, and thought I could pull it off. And as our friend Paul Martichek likes to say, I love this quote. I blatantly ripped this off from him. He likes to say, Alex, sometimes you need to throw your hat over the wall and then figure out how you're going to get it back. So that's exactly what this law firm was founded on, right? I left this great, well-paying job at this telecom company that I loved, and I just thought I could do better on my own, and somehow figured it out.
Lo and behold, here you are.
Yeah.
And the COSE Board is better off for it.
Well, I don't know about
now
that.
The GCP Board.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's
Alex,
great.
is there anything when you were getting started? So this is always, the interesting question for people that are starting their businesses. So we talked about COVID and how it's been hard for a lot of small businesses that were already in existence. But we've actually found that a lot of people who lost their jobs are finally deciding they're going to be an entrepreneur. They're finally going to live their dream because they have that opportunity. What do you wish you knew then, or what advice would you give to somebody?
It's such a great question, Megan. The advice is fail often and be ready for it, and just build that callus, build that muscle. You can't, Kevin, you've been a small business owner for a long time, and Megan, you're running this organization with tons of small businesses. How often do you talk to people about failing? How often have you, in growing these organizations, failed? It happens all the time, and if you're not failing, then you're not trying hard enough. Mm-hmm. It's impossible to growing a business is never a straight line. It's jagged.
That's right.
So what I definitely, when I started, did not know that, did not expect that, fell on my face all the time and took it really, really hard, took it really personally. I still take it personally. But I mean, it's so obvious. It's so obvious that that is something that has to happen. It's a requirement. You have to fail a lot. You have to have 20 ideas and know that 19 of them are going to suck, you know? That's what I wish I would have known, Megan. I wish I would have been better prepared for all the failing that was coming, because it's a lot of sleepless nights. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of, just poor emotional intelligence when dealing with that. A lot of therapy sessions.
I like to think one of the things we do best as entrepreneurs is we get back up.
Yes.
We get back up and we recalibrate. We always attempt not to have the same issue happen twice, but we get back up and we try to get back going and moving in a direction. Your point about it being jagged is absolutely correct. The only thing that's actually a straight line through all of this is time.
Right.
Okay? Time marches on. And so it's just a matter of what you're doing with the time and how you're leveraging that time in order to try to reach your particular dream. I think the other issue that is always there, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, is this issue of risk and understanding that the difference between what we do and someone with, the more traditional, let's say the old career path of, get a job or whatever, is that there's probably, I always used to say, when you look at it, there's uncertainty in each one of those. There's a lot of uncertainty in either one of those paths. When I was in corporate America, you never knew through M&A activity, through economics, through business cycles, you were always looking at, okay, is this a weekend or is this a Friday when there's going to be some type of rift, some type of reduction in force, right? And you were always concerned about that no matter what was going on, no matter what your responsibility. So you had risk there, okay? And this whole concept of a regular paycheck was really more of a placebo than anything else. I mean, so that's a big part of how I weighed my decision when I decided to go out and kind of do this thing on my own, was that there's risk here too. So why be afraid of this other risk?
Right.
And for a long period of time, my thought was, well, if it doesn't work out, I probably have options. Now I've been out here so long, I don't have any options. I'm just, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a small business owner. I'm a strategist. I'm doing that, and I've been doing it, and I've been knock on wood reasonably successful at it. And I think that's one of the things that through all of our podcasts, that's a message that I keep hearing from everybody that we talk to. And I think you are another example of that.
Well, and let me just say this too, and I'm not saying this to blow smoke. It is for that exact reason that the support that you get from like a COSE, right, or a Greater Cleveland Partnership is so important, right? You've got to surround yourself with other business owners. You have to. They're the only ones that will ever be able to truly commiserate with you and to truly know about the stress of potentially missing payroll, all the disappointment, that is on their shoulders. You're feeding your employees and their families, and you're funding the college save. I mean, there's so much stress and burden on the business owner. Having 12,000, members of COSE there to lean on is huge. And the fact that you guys are providing that community is, God bless you guys, man. I mean, honestly, it's such an invaluable resource.
You know what, we one of the things we have at COSE and TC, we've just got this great team. We've got a great team. Megan and her team on the COSE side are absolutely fantastic. And I will tell you, I would not have gone down that path and ended up being the chair of COSE were it not for the support group. But I'm going to echo what you said. one of the things we're blowing out now is our peer-to-peer groups. And those groups are so important because those groups contain people smarter than you are, who oftentimes have traveled and traversed that road a little further than you have. And so it gives you a really nice sounding board in a confidential manner to talk about where you are, what you're going through, and help you avert some of the potholes that are in that road. And that's another thing that COSE does for you. I mean, you start talking about 11,000 plus companies that make up COSE. You know what? There's someone on that path. There's someone that is in your segment. There's someone that understands where you are. And we're just not concerned about trying to help each other.
I was in one of those peer groups, one of those peer-to-peer groups for about 7 months, and my group was amazing, and it was all totally confidential, and we shared things with each other that we weren't even sharing with our spouses. I mean, just like the top and bottom of the 5% that you can't really talk to your employees about. That was huge. I love that COSE did that.
Yeah. One of the things we always say is, you know, when you have issues and you're the boss, you're the owner, you talk up. You don't talk down. You don't share these things with your employees. You've got to be the rock, but you've got to be able to talk to someone who has an experience level, and those are people that are at your level or have attained that type of success. Also, that type of burden, right? Let's talk about it as it is. And you're able to communicate that to them. But at all times, to your staff, to your team, you've got to be solid. And those peer-to-peer groups help you do that extremely well.
Yeah, it's a great service.
And in that same vein, Alex, I know that you're a big person who believes in giving back and kind of nurturing the next generation too. And you do a lot of mentoring of other entrepreneurs. Is that right?
We've done a lot over the years. We had an essay contest here we ran it for 3 years. It was called We Solve Problems, where we got high school students to learn to write solutions, kind of pseudo business plans, helping students write solutions, communicate solutions to problems. I do a lot with EO. And yeah, I mean, 10,000 small businesses, we give talks there. It is good to help, for sure. Yeah.
So we have just a few minutes left. So I have just one last question for you. How do you keep making sure you're having fun? So it's funny because I listen to you and Kevin, and you guys are like two peas in the pod. Like, you guys see something where there's like a gap, and you're like, well, we're just going to create a new business to address that. Just like you just talked about with COVID. Instead of referring it to someone else, you're like, oh, I can do this. I'm going to create it. Kevin has like 1 million businesses now. So I'm in awe of both of you. But just, how do you keep having fun?
Oh, man, that's such a great question. But I think about, I'm going to flip the script and ask you guys the same thing, because I feel like you guys work way harder than I do. So first of all, I think that you guys work much harder than I do. So I'm going to ask you the exact same question when I'm done talking. I think the key is surrounding yourself with fun people, right? So I often say that I want to build the company that I used to want to work for, right? So coming up, working for big law firms, working in this big company, great, loved them, loved my experiences there. But I want to work in a fun environment, because I spend more time here than I do with my own family. And this is what I tell these guys too, right? So we take quarterly play hooky days, right? We go somewhere, we play Trivial Pursuit, we drink wine all day, or we go to the movies, or we go to Cedar Point, where we did. So that is really important. We have, here at the firm, we have weekly all hands lunches where we bring everybody together and we just talk and we eat. But in general, I just think you just can't, I don't know. I try not to take myself too seriously anymore, because work and life are hard enough, and if you're looking for it, there's constant opportunities to be judgmental of yourself and be hard on yourself and on others. And what's the fun in that? There's no fun there. I want to hear what you guys do to keep it fun.
So I'll take the next one. I'll take it next, and we will close with Megan and sign off. I will tell you that we have a shared element there. One of the things I always wanted to do was I always wanted to do two things. I wanted to teach and I wanted to run a business. I wanted to teach because I wanted to teach the way that I wish the professors were teaching when I was trying to learn, okay? And I was like, once I finally understood the constructs, and remember my undergrad is technology. So as a mechanical engineer, I sit there and I'm like, okay. And by the time got it, blah, 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 blah. It was like, all you had to do was explain it and go through this. And everyone would have been right there, and and this is how the theory applies. Here's all of the formulas, the physics, everything comes together. But it was never that way. So yeah. I became an adjunct at one time. It actually financed all my trips to the Caribbean when I was, kind of in my 20s. I did a second major in the Caribbean. And yeah, well, what can I say? But I taught, and I taught applied physics. I taught thermodynamics and heat transfer and fluids and all that stuff. But I had fun doing it because I did it the way that I thought it should have been done. Okay, that's one thing. And then in terms of work, I thought the same thing. I had worked for a long time before I went out on my own. And I thought, if ever I got the chance, I want to create the environment that I wish I was able to work in, okay? And so I went about the task of trying to do that. And I think maybe for me, there's a third element too. That third element is it's important for me to be philanthropic, okay? If you look at what drives me, it's like, it's faith, it's family, it's finance, and it's philanthropy. Okay, those are my drivers. And so philanthropy gives me that give back. It gives me that purpose. It gives me that, what difference did you make? Okay, and I'm kind of a low-key philanthropist. You don't need to know that I did what I did, okay? It's just a matter of making a difference and making something better than I found it, or or leaving it better than it was when I was there. That's what it's all about. And so those three things are probably what helped drive me. And really, when you look at everything that I get involved with, you're going to see some element of that. You're typically going to see some element of it. So that's my story. Megan, you're up.
Sure. So 3 things. I'm a fixer. I'm someone that likes to have a sense of purpose, and I like to make an impact. And I have an inability to focus on just one thing. So when you combine all of those things, this job is amazing for me. When you think about the work of a Chamber of Commerce, there's no start and end to a project. Our work is ongoing. There's always something happening. We always have to be focused on economic development. We always have to be focused on what the business community needs. And so every day our work is different. And for me, it's such a privilege to work with businesses like you, because you inspire me, right? You're the cool people, the risk takers, and I just love the opportunity to be able to hear your stories and support that. And given the opportunity at my job, like, I couldn't be just a marketing person or just an events person. I need to have my hands in all kinds of stuff to feel motivated and excited. And I love jumping from here. I actually thrive in chaos, right? And I thrive in chaos. It's like my place to be. It's where I'm most comfortable. So yeah, I love it. And I agree with you, Alex. I am so fortunate to have not only the most amazing team that we work with at COSE and GCP, because everyone genuinely believes so much in the work that we're doing, and they want to really make a difference. But people are fun, and they love the work, and they work hard. And then I get to work with amazing boards too, and business owners. You guys are so busy, and you volunteer your time to also contribute to this organization. So I'm lucky as heck. And I thank both of you for everything that you do for COSE, and obviously, Alex, thank you for being a part of our podcast today. Like I said at the beginning, always learn something new about you, and so now I know where you were born, which is exciting. So yeah. I'll just have to wait till the next COSE member meetup where we can have cocktails together, and I'm sure I'll learn a few more things about you after a few glasses of wine.
And now you know where Moldova is, which
that's right.
Puts you in like the 0.1% of everyone else.
Well, you know what? And when you said it, my guess was it was going to be somewhere in Eastern Europe around Russia, because that's it.
That's about it though, right?
But I had never heard of it.
Yeah.
Never heard of it. But Alex, this has been fantastic. And, you know, like I opened with, our podcasts haven't focused on COSE members. So this is one of the rare times that we've had a COSE member here. And it's just been great hearing your story. I think our viewers are going to really delight in learning who you are and really revel in the story and the journey, because that's really what it's all about. Megan may work for the chamber, but she's an entrepreneur. I mean, look, the difference between a small business owner and an entrepreneur, entrepreneurs are like Megan. You know, we can't just do one thing. We're on to the next thing.
Right.
We got so many things going on, and we don't like it any other way. I mean, if it was just one thing, I'd be bored.
Right.
And that's how you are. That's how Megan is. So Megan, you're not getting off just, you know, with the chairman stuff. We understand.
We make our ADD work for us. That's
exactly
there you
right.
go.
That's
There you
exactly
go.
right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for another podcast and the Small Business After Hours podcast presented by COSE. And we hope you'll tune into the next one.
Thanks, guys. Everybody stay healthy.
Thanks, guys. This was great.
All right.